Joseph Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels was Reich Minister of Propaganda and remained in Berlin after Hitler's death. On May 1, 1945, as Soviet troops closed in on the Führer bunker, Goebbels and his wife Magda poisoned their 6 children with cyanide. Later that day, both committed suicide. Accounts indicate Goebbels either shot himself or was shot after ingesting poison. Their bodies were burned in the Chancellery Garden. Goebbels chose death rather than surrender following the collapse of the Nazi regime. Heinrich Himmler. Heinrich Himmler was Reichsführer SS and controlled the SS, Gestapo, and concentration camp system. After Germany's surrender, Himmler attempted to flee using false identification. He was captured by British forces on 21 May 1945. During a medical examination while in custody, Himmler bit into a concealed cyanide capsule hidden in his mouth. He died within minutes on the 23rd of May 1945. His death occurred before he could be formally tried for his role in the Holocaust. Hermann Göring. Hermann Göring was head of the Luftwaffe and one of the most senior Nazi leaders. Captured by Allied forces, he was tried at the Nuremberg trials and convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Göring was sentenced to death by hanging. On the night of the 15th of October 1946, hours before his execution, Göring committed suicide in his prison cell by ingesting a cyanide capsule that he had secretly retained. His death denied the Allies the planned execution. Reinhard Heydrich. Reinhard Heydrich was head of the Reich Main Security Office and a key architect of the Holocaust. On 27 May 1942, while serving as Deputy Protector of Bohemia and Moravia, Heydrich was attacked in Prague by Czech resistance operatives. A grenade exploded near his vehicle, causing severe internal injuries. Initially appearing to recover, Heydrich developed a fatal infection. He died on the 4th of June 1942 from sepsis related to the attack, becoming the highest-ranking Nazi official assassinated during the war. Martin Bormann. Martin Bormann was head of the Nazi Party Chancellery and one of Hitler's closest associates. During the final days of the Battle of Berlin, Bormann attempted to flee the city on the 2nd of May, 1945. He disappeared during the escape. In 1972, skeletal remains were discovered near the route he was last seen taking. Forensic analysis confirmed the remains were Bormann's. Evidence indicated he died by suicide after biting into a cyanide capsule while attempting to escape Soviet forces. Adolf Eichmann. Adolf Eichmann was an SS officer responsible for organizing the deportation of Jews to ghettos and extermination camps across Europe. After the war, he escaped to Argentina under a false identity. In 1960, he was captured by Israeli intelligence and transported to Israel for trial. Eichmann was convicted of crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes against the Jewish people. On the 31st of May 1962, he was executed by hanging. His body was cremated, and his ashes were scattered at sea outside Israeli territorial waters. Ernst Kaltenbrunner. Ernst Kaltenbrunner was head of the Reich Main Security Office after Reinhard Heydrich's death, overseeing the Gestapo, SD, and concentration camp system. He was captured by U.S. forces in May 1945 and placed on trial at Nuremberg. Kaltenbrunner was convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity for his role in mass executions and deportations. On the 16th of October 1946, he was executed by hanging at Nuremberg prison. He was the highest-ranking SS officer executed after the war. Alfred Rosenberg. Alfred Rosenberg was the chief Nazi ideologue and Reich minister for the occupied Eastern territories. He promoted racial theory and anti-Semitism and supported policies of mass repression and exploitation in occupied regions. Rosenberg was arrested in 1945 and tried at the Nuremberg trials. He was convicted of crimes against humanity and war crimes. On 16 October 1946, Rosenberg was executed by hanging. His execution followed the formal rejection of Nazi racial ideology by the Allied Tribunal. Wilhelm Keitel. Wilhelm Keitel was head of the German Armed Forces High Command and signed numerous orders authorizing war crimes, including the execution of civilians and prisoners of war. Captured by Allied forces in 1945, Keitel was tried at Nuremberg and convicted on all charges. On 16 October 1946, he was executed by hanging. Witnesses reported that his execution was prolonged due to difficulties with the gallows. Keitel accepted responsibility for following Hitler's orders but expressed regret before his death. Alfred Jodl. Alfred Jodl was Chief of Operations of the German Armed Forces High Command and played a central role in planning military campaigns and issuing criminal orders. He signed Germany's unconditional surrender in May 1945. Jodl was later tried at Nuremberg and convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity. On the 16th of October 1946, he was executed by hanging. His remains were cremated, and the ashes were disposed of to prevent the creation of a gravesite. Odilo Globoknik. Odilo Globoknik was an SS leader responsible for Operation Reinhard, which oversaw the extermination of Jews in death camps, including Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka. After Germany's defeat, Globoknik attempted to evade capture. He was arrested by British forces in Austria in May 1945. Shortly after his arrest, on 31st May 1945, Globoknik committed suicide by ingesting a cyanide capsule. His death occurred before he could be interrogated or tried for his role in mass murder. Rudolf Hess. Rudolf Hess was Deputy Führer until 1941, when he flew solo to Scotland in an unauthorized attempt to negotiate peace with Britain. He was captured and held as a prisoner of war, later standing trial at Nuremberg. Hess was sentenced to life imprisonment and held at Spandau prison in Berlin. On the 17th of August 1987, at age 93, Hess was found dead in the prison garden. His death was officially ruled a suicide by hanging, though it has been the subject of controversy. Karl Dönitz. Karl Dönitz was commander of the German Navy and was named Hitler's successor shortly before Germany's surrender. He led the short-lived Flensburg government until arrested by Allied forces. Dönitz was tried at Nuremberg and sentenced to 10 years in prison for war crimes. After his release in 1956, he lived in West Germany. Karl Dönitz died of natural causes on the 24th of December 1980. Hans Frank. Hans Frank was Governor-General of occupied Poland, where he oversaw a regime of mass repression, forced labor, and the systematic persecution of Jews. Under his administration, millions were deported to ghettos and extermination camps. Frank was arrested by U.S. forces in 1945 and put on trial at the Nuremberg trials. He was convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity. On 16 October 1946, Hans Frank was executed by hanging at Nuremberg prison after expressing limited remorse for his actions. Hans Frank. Hans Frank was Governor-General of occupied Poland, where he oversaw a regime of mass repression, forced labor, and the systematic persecution of Jews. Under his administration, millions were deported to ghettos and extermination camps. Frank was arrested by U.S. forces in 1945 and put on trial at the Nuremberg trials. He was convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity. On 16 October 1946, Hans Frank was executed by hanging at Nuremberg prison after expressing limited remorse for his actions. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was Führer of Nazi Germany and the central authority of the Third Reich. As Soviet forces entered Berlin in April 1945, Hitler retreated to the Führerbunker beneath the Reich Chancellery. On the 30th of April 1945, acknowledging Germany's imminent defeat, Hitler committed suicide. He shot himself in the head while his wife, Eva Braun, ingested cyanide. Their bodies were partially burned by aides in the Chancellery Garden to prevent capture. Soviet forces later recovered and identified the remains.